We joined this Mountain Dew already in progress. So yeah, sometimes when I'm in a Google Plus hangout, I feel like I'm being talked over repeatedly to the point that it's not fun for me anymore. And sometimes people feel like, no, that's a good enough point for you to be cut off, so I'm just going to start talking right now, or else I might never get another chance to talk. And it's worse as you add more people to a group. And it happens in Skype. It's happened to me over the last few years. And, when I had all day to be on the internet, when I didn't have a business that I was running that took up 14 to 16 hours of my day, I would let it slide because, an hour later I might be able to make that point that I wanted to make, and I might get that chance. But now, I have precious few hours to dick off with and relax when I get home. So when people cut me off, it's frustrating. And when I don't see any chance of me actually being able to make the full point that I'm trying to make, sometimes I just drop a group. Click. If I can't advance the conversation from my end and I just keep on hearing the same shit over and over again, when I have this idea that would bring us out of that mire and into a cool new discussion, and I just cannot get it out because people have to be heard, or at least they have to hear themselves talk. I have no reason to be there anymore. I would rather just click the little X box on my browser and then go watch something on Hulu, because my Hulu queue is full of shows that I haven't watched that expired, and I'm going to have to find some way to find those episodes. And I'd rather not lose another Hulu show if all I'm going to do is sit and listen to the same crap. Now, part of that stuff that I was just in a Google Plus hangout listening to, part of it was the whole revamped, revisioned God of the Gaps, make everyone feel good argument of, well, maybe God, or the concept that we are projecting as God, maybe he's hiding in the 5th, 6th, and on through the 13th dimension that we now know exist because some mathematicians and scientists that we can't understand said so. And, yeah. To call it anything but an extension of the God of the Gaps, because we've pushed God that fucking far that he's not even in our reality. He's in some. He doesn't exist in the physical planes that we have these 4 dimensions. No, he's in some other dimension. Yeah, it's another gap to go search, and when we find a way to do that, I'm pretty sure 1,000 years from now, people will look back at some of these Google Plus hangouts that I've been in, and they'll feel for me, for one, and they will say, what a bunch of dumbasses. And I'm sure that we could look back at some cavemen and have the same feeling, but I just don't feel like it's as necessary as it's coming out to be. It's, if we just had some courtesy and let people speak their entire thought. Just let them get the whole thing out before you fucking cut them off on sentence one because you didn't like where it was going or because you think you can predict where it's going. Holy shit. And this would go for a lot of the people that you think I'm talking about. But, take it all and compare it to Seitan Bruggencate or Nephilim Free or, a lot of people who will cut people off in the middle of sentences, and when I only have an hour or two to enjoy myself, it all looks the same to me, no matter who's getting cut off. You're all just as bad as the other. So, I guess the last instance that I was not able to get my complete idea out because I couldn't get a word in edgewise, it goes something like this. TheInventorGorilla keeps quoting Carl Sagan as if Carl Sagan were the originator of an idea that a fourth dimensional being peeking into our world would be something like a three-dimensional being poking its finger through a plane like a piece of paper and interacting with little stick figures and stuff. Yeah. And I really couldn't address it once again. And this has come up many times in the same conversations that we're having over and over again. So I'm glad I have this soapbox where I can just say, fuck you, you can't interrupt me here. Carl Sagan did not come up with that. He was just paraphrasing someone else. And the most obvious example in my head would be a comic book that I read when I was a kid, before I knew who Sagan was, before most people knew who Sagan was. They might have watched Cosmos, but he wasn't really the kind of rock star that TheInventorGorilla makes him out to be, to want to keep on quoting him back then. Anyways, the comic book that I read as a kid, it was Weird Science. Okay, it was a reprint, it was a back issue, but the original one was number 7, and it was from 1951. Now, this wasn't where the concept originated, mind you. This is just where I was introduced to it, was from a comic book printed in 1951. Now, the story within it, because Weird Science had a whole bunch of different stories. It was the precursor to Tales from the Crypt and a lot of others that would have multiple scary, weird stories in it. Okay? So, the story was... It was the monster from the fourth dimension. And in it, okay, there's this farmer. He's got this blob-looking thing. It looks like a floating piece of meat, but also kind of looks like chewing gum. Chewed chewing gum. Right? Anyways, it appears, and then it disappears on his farm, and he asks his scientist brother about it, and then there's this explanation of the fourth dimension, and then, the whole analogy of third-dimensional people interacting with two-dimensional people is in that comic. Okay? And then, pitchfork into the fourth-dimensional monster, the part of it dies and starts stinking up the place, and then they cover that part with hay, and, anyways, that's the adaptation later that happened in Tales from the Crypt. I think the original one from 1951, the guy just went and attacked the monster and then just like went into the fourth dimension to kill it, and then was never heard from again. Just, vanished. But anyways, that's 1951, right? So the concept is, popularly read by, school children around since the 50s. But, way before that, okay, 70 years, I guess, 1884, okay, there's this book, it comes out, and it's called Flatland, A Romance of Many Dimensions, okay, and it takes the world by storm, right, more because it was like social commentary than because it was something like mind-blowing in the science or physics, or combining metaphysics with science and trying to hide that you actually want to have your metaphysics basically hide behind science to where, the possibility keeps us from discounting it. Yeah. This book basically showed Victorian England in basically 2 dimensions. And, yeah. It kind of introduced the concept of thinking about dimensions in a way that, you necessarily would think about, well, we're here in this 3rd dimension, like, what would the 4th dimension look like? Okay? And this shit was 1884. Alright? So, basically, I've been hearing InventorGorilla quote Carl Sagan from a fucking documentary where a whole bunch of people were fucking pasted together, but it's probably just a fucking clip from Cosmos that was put into a later documentary. Anyways, he's been fucking quoting Sagan. And he shouldn't be. And if this doesn't get him to stop quoting Sagan, when Sagan wasn't the original person, I'm just going to get Sagan tattooed on the side of my penis and offer it to him. You know what I'm saying?